Greetings, metaphysicians. This is episode 109, Instruments of the Divine. And I share a story with you that happened recently and powerfully that is helping me to get out of the way and surrender as much as I can be to be a full instrument of the divine. And you can be too. Enjoy the episode.
You're listening to Let's Get Metaphysical. This podcast explores the spiritual and metaphysical world through the experiences and opinions of the host and those interviewed. It should not necessarily be seen as direct endorsement or personal advice to our listeners. We encourage you to use your own discernment, judgment, and intuition regarding anything you learn from this show.
Let's get meta.
Welcome to the Let's Get Metaphysical podcast. I am your host, Renata Maniaci, here to remind you that you are a spiritual being having a temporary human experience here on lovely planet Earth. Make the most of it. This is Season 7, Heaven on Earth, and this is episode 109, which is going to be a recounting of this huge experience I just had. You will be hearing this a few weeks after, just as the way the episodes flow out, but I want to share this experience that just happened a few hours ago, right now. So we'll jump in. Are you ready? Let's get meta. Masters and angels, I request your presence, your guidance, your assistance and support with this episode. I invoke the light of the divine within me. I am a clear and perfect channel. Light is my guide, highest possible good, and only good is allowed. Please let me know the truth, speak the truth, become the truth, and be the truth, and let this episode reach whoever needs to hear it. Thank you with gratitude and full faith. Bless creation. So I will start at the beginning of what I think might be the beginning of this story. As many of you know, I often get little premonitions of things that are coming for me, lessons, experiences, growth experiences, etc., big moments. Sometimes I'll get a flash of when that might happen, what it might entail, different things like that. And I've shared this throughout the episodes. I had one of these recently. About a week ago, I had the insight that at some point this month, September, I was going to have a breakthrough in my heart and throat chakras, specifically my throat chakra, but that the line between the two was going to be healed or more open, something like this. So roughly, I knew that something was going to happen that would help me open these aspects. And I thought it was going to be in a few more weeks. That's just kind of the vision that I had. And that's not to say that there's more to be done. There could be more to be done. But I just had an experience that did that now, much sooner than I thought, and in a completely interesting, unforeseen way. Definitely did not see this coming. So I'm trying to be chronological here. I got that insight about a week ago. Then last night, I am on the phone with a friend. And do any of you have friends that are just extremely aware people? Okay, like high level of consciousness, aware, and bring through messages for you. I'm sure many of you do if you're listening to this podcast, right? So pay attention to these friends, okay? If they're telling you a story, even if it's about themselves or something that you don't understand the relevance, let them talk and just listen and ask your guidance to give you what you need to know from that story. Ask your angels for help understanding why you're hearing that story at that exact time, right? So last night I'm on the phone with just such a friend who tells lots of wonderful stories, and I've recently, over the years, figured out that when he is telling stories, they always they're always messages for you, because he'll tell different stories to different people, whatever. So the essence of one of these stories from last night is about being able to fully let go of control enough to let the divine come through and just allow the divine to work through you. That's the essence of the major story that was being told. And I knew, I had that level of awareness at the time that I needed to hear that, because at some point I need to be able to fully let go and let go of control to be a full instrument of the divine. I know that. I knew that before the story, but it was a beautiful reminder, and it has to do with the rest of the story that happened this morning. But this is all for you as well, right? So I think many, if not most of us, came to the planet to ultimately have the opportunity to be an instrument for the divine, right? And as the last episode, we make choices, we get to choose. And for many of us, it's very difficult to give up control. It's very difficult for us to give up control to people we can see and governments we can see and bosses we can see, right? It might be even more difficult to give up control to the divine, which so many of us cannot see, right? And might even question, is there a God? Is there a creator? Is the divine real? Are angels real? All this stuff. How can I let go of control and give myself to them as an instrument? So, right, there's all these questions. But to continue with my story, I know that that's why I'm here on some level, is to be an instrument of the divine, of the light. That's what I'm hoping and what I'm working towards now. Okay. So let me give you an example of how I hang on to control. I know what I'm saying right now to you. I say my invocation at the beginning to help to allow the angels to come in and speak through me, and they do. But I'm still here. If something was coming through that I wanted to stop and not say because I was embarrassed or it was too vulnerable or something like this, I could, because I'm still here. I see what's happening. I hear what's happening. I'm right here. I'm still in my body. Now, very powerful channelers, and that maybe that's a word that rubs people the wrong way, but people who bring through the divine, right? You can call them whatever you want. Channelers, guides, spiritual teachers, spiritual masters, whatever. They let go completely if they're really doing it, right? If they can have achieved this level of surrender. They've let go completely so that they don't have control. They allow the divine, they truly allow themselves to be an instrument of the divine fully. And that is rare. It's rare. This is not something that we see humans everywhere doing all the time right now. Now, this can happen in different ways in different areas. You can go to an opera and watch one of the players singing and feel that they have completely given themselves over on some level to the divine. Or you can see that in a painting, perhaps, that this artist was just completely moved out of the way and allowed the divine to come through them to create that masterpiece, right? And this can happen in books, in movies, in your job, in your work, in saving someone else's life, in doctors. You can hear stories from doctors in the ER that they just were being used to save this person's life in some way, right? And a lot of times when this happens, that person won't even remember, in a good way, not in like a blackout drunk kind of way, but in like a, wow, something beautiful and blissful and super high vibration came through me and I can't explain it, but it was good and it was light and this thing was the result of it. Okay. What am I getting at here? I'm getting at letting go so much, surrendering so much that you are literally just, instead of having a fist and holding something, your hand is open and you have let go. So this story came through my friend yesterday, and it was clear that at some point, at some level, that is what I'm aspiring to. And not sure in what way. I mean, I think in the way of speaking, that will happen. or could happen at some point in my lifetime. It's not happening fully right now because, as I said, I am in control of what I'm saying. If something was coming through, like it's kind of coming through on a reel, but if there was something I didn't want to say, I could stop it, right? This is what I'm saying. The message was at some point to be so open and vulnerable and real that I could surrender just enough to do this, to be completely, to have no control, and not in a bad sense, right? In the sense that I'm not preventing the divine from coming in and using me as a vehicle, as an instrument for God's will or the Creator's will. And we all have this capacity. That's what they're saying now, is we can all do this. We all have the ability on some level to get out of the way enough to let the divine come through. Okay, so that was the message last night on the phone. And I went to bed thinking about that. I got it. I understand. And I even had this whole inspiration to come and just every day make a time to sit in front of the microphone and just not have any idea what I'm going to say and just practice allowing them to come through. And I think I will be doing that. And that, to a great extent, if you've been following this podcast for the last several years, it's changed a lot, right? It's changed from having guests on to knowing what I want to talk about, even when it's a solo thing. And like lately, the last 20 episodes-ish, I really don't have a huge idea of what I'm going to talk about. So I'm getting there. And I see this as a good thing, right? Because if they want something to come through and I have a different idea about what I'm going to talk about, I'm getting in the way of what actually needs to come through. And you can apply this to whatever you're doing. This doesn't just apply to podcasts and episodes, right? This can apply to your life and your job and your purpose. Maybe you write songs, maybe you write books, maybe you're working at a company, but you have, if you get out of the way, the ability to bring through something beautiful and divine and light that will change the world or change your company or change your family or change your child or for the better, right? And you all know that I'm only speaking about this through the light. I would never advocate the other way. Please don't let the other things come through that aren't fully of the light and high consciousness. So this applies to you as well, which is great, because it's always great if I do an episode where this applies to the listeners as well. But to get out of the way enough to allow the divine to come through fully. Haven't been there yet myself. Not completely. I have in moments. There have been moments when I'm dancing or acting when I was younger or playing a sport. Mostly when I'm doing something active that I am completely out of myself or completely in myself, right? But there's something else that's moving me or something else that's making me move certain ways. You're out of your mind and the divine can come through. There's been little moments like that throughout my life. I'm sure you've had these moments too. Even if it is delivering a message to a friend or something. Oh, wow, where did that come from? That just came out through my mouth. Okay, well, you got out of the way enough for the divine to come through your voice and deliver a message to somebody in need. Okay, that's an example of this too. So you get where I'm coming from. So this morning I wake up and I go to use my bathroom and the door is locked from the inside. It never happened before. I don't even ever lock my bathroom door because I don't need to. There's no need to lock my bathroom door ever. So my bathroom door is locked. Okay, great. And it's a Sunday morning, so Sunday mornings, there's an opportunity to go to a very holy place, a chapel nearby my house devoted to the Divine Mother energy, to listen to processes or do meditations, as you might. And so it was coming close to that moment, and so I wanted to go and do that. So I got dressed, used the other bathroom, couldn't brush my teeth, couldn't put my contacts in, etc., and just had my glasses and went over to this Divine Mother Chapel. to do processes for an hour. And so I'm there, and processes, for those of you who are new to that term, it's kind of like an audio meditation, except it's very powerful, relatively new spiritual technology that helps you with different aspects, different areas, depending on what kind of process it is. And I listened to soul repair and something called soul elevation, 2 different processes. Anyways, this is like the angels arriving and helping you with different areas of development. And so I'm doing this in this very deeply holy building. And several other people were there doing their own processes, and it's kind of like a self-directed thing, and it's great. So I'm asking during my processes internally, what is this about? What's going on here? Because if I've learned anything in the last few years, it's that everything is happening for you. And I really try to remember that all the time. I've gotten a lot better. Rarely do I feel like the victim in something. If something happens, it's happening for me. I just need to figure out what I need to know about it and move forward through it, learn what I need to learn. So why is this happening? And I asked the Divine Mother Energy, what's with this door? Why is my bathroom door locked right now? And what came through was this vision that this particular door, if you saw where I live, is the very center of my home. It's like the very center. It's the most central you can be in my house, the most internal room. And she showed me that it was a metaphor for my own inner sanctum within myself that I keep guarded. And it was kind of a two-way message. One, that I was locked out of that most inner part on the one level. So I myself could not get in to that most inner part of me. And on the other level, simultaneously, I was keeping others out. I wasn't allowing others to see the most vulnerable parts of me on some level. In other words, I was keeping control of that space. And literally, my bathroom, right, my master bathroom, I shower in there. I get ready for things in there. That is a very personal space. It's the most personal space of any space in my home, right? And so she's showing me that this was a metaphor for that related to the story from the night before that my friend shared with me, is keeping that boundary, keeping that control up, and being able to control that vulnerability of being, just having that enclosement and that nobody else really ever can get to or go in. And then also that flip side of I'm also at this moment locked out of that, which is really interesting. Okay, so I'm getting that download. I vaguely see kind of like, oh, wow, maybe this has to do with that message last night about, being able to be an instrument for the divine and really fully getting out of the way and just allowing the divine to come through and not trying to put up any roadblocks and not being afraid of saying something stupid or vulnerable or something I'm going to get in trouble with and whatever. If we're talking about speaking, and for you, it could be anything. It could be painting, it could be writing, it could be doing something at work, it could, all the things that I mentioned before, anything, however the divine wants to use you as a perfect instrument without you trying to control it or manage it or keep some part to yourself so that you still have that part that you feel and you don't want to be vulnerable and share those most pure aspects of yourself, right? So all of this. Okay. So the time ended, and afterwards I ran into a friend and asked him to come. I told him what was going on and I asked him to come help me to see if we could get my door open. So he comes over and I looked at my phone and I saw that I had a message. I had briefly told the friend from the night before on the phone what had happened, and he sent me a video of how to open a door. Like a YouTube thing, like, okay, your door's locked, try this kind of thing. Okay. So we watched that and we're like, okay, let's try that. And it was cutting like using a plastic bottle, like cutting a plastic kind of card out of a plastic bottle and then just slipping it between the door and trying to open the latch like that. I honestly didn't think it was going to work. And so we both went and we both we used 2 bottles and he cut one and I cut the other. And he was going to try, and it's hard to explain how cosmic this was. We were just listening. At first I got out my toolbox because I thought we were going to have to like use a screwdriver somewhere and try to like poke a hole in the, whatever. And then like it became clear right away that wasn't going to happen. And so we saw the video and we were like, okay, let's try this. So we both had our plastic things and he was going to try. And he's also very cosmic and was also listening to processes and everything. And just was like, no, I think you need to do it. I think you need to try this. And so I had my plastic and I'm trying to open the door and I'm not sure that I can do it. And he's just there encouraging me like, oh, that sounds good. Like, that sounds good. It feels like you're getting close. It feels like you're getting close. And I've only been doing this for like maybe 10 to 30 seconds or whatever, but I'm still like having my doubts and like all this stuff. And he was certain that it was supposed to be me who opens it. And all of a sudden, the door like explodes open. And I say it like that because like it's, I wish we were filming it. It almost like exploded. Like it went and just like exploded open. And at that same time, I felt an explosion in my throat and in my heart chakras. So that all happened simultaneously. And I'm feeling this. And I just kind of was like, and kind of like screamed a little like for joy. And we looked at each other and were like, oh my God, it worked, But at the same time, I'm feeling this opening in my throat and my heart that just, like, I still can't describe. I'm still high from it on some level right now, right? That's why I wanted to do this episode right now, even though this is going to be a few weeks after the fact when you hear it. And we just hug each other. Oh my God, it worked. And he could feel too. He's very sensitive and attuned and cosmic, like this friend of mine. And we just kind of were staring at the door and at each other kind of in awe and like felt that was a huge release of something. Like any muggle could just sit at this store and be like, okay, so you use plastic and you open the door, big deal, whatever, like, yeah, you can look at it like that. Like it totally, but it was so much more. Everything that happens is trying to teach us something. And this was no exception. So we went and we just like sat on my balcony and talked about this for the next 15, 20 minutes. And he too fully was like, yes, I felt that block or whatever it was be released. Like you looked completely different in that moment. There was a new, something happened. Something happened. And that's just the way that the divine set it up to happen. That was the way. It was like, okay, let's lock the door and then, we'll it was a cosmic setup. And all this stuff I think that's part of why I'm sharing this as well, is like all your stuff that happens, your dishwasher breaks or your key breaks off in the door and you can't open your car and, your light bulb went out at the worst time, whatever. All of this stuff is a cosmic setup. And you can choose to see it that way. Doesn't mean that it's not that way if you don't choose to look at it that way. It still is. But you can choose to see it that way. And when you do, you can get the message that they're trying to get, or get the blessing in this case. This was a healing for me. And it's so raw still, like this just happened. So as I'm, recording this I'm not integrated yet. This is not fully, maybe I should have waited a few days to record this, but I just needed to now. This was a huge gift for me. And I realized that because of these little twinkle lights along the way, right? Like last week, they said you're going to have a breakthrough in your throat and your heart will be more connected. Okay, great. Then, the phone call from last night telling about this thing, and then wake up, the door doesn't open. Okay, well, it happened right before going to chapel to meditate. Okay, go and meditate, get some downloads. Oh, my friend's right here. He wants to help. He's totally cosmic and helpful and all of it, right? You can follow the divine roadmap through any situation. And if you ask for help, they're going to give it to you. And if you ask to understand what it's about and you take the moment to listen, they're going to give you an answer. I was sitting there in the chapel and I asked for help. I said, Divine Mother, can you please help me to open my door? Masters and angels, can you please help me to open my bathroom door? Right? But I was also asking why. I had the awareness enough to be like, okay, why is this happening? What's this about? Right? And they gave me little clues. They gave me that metaphor. This is the most inner room in my home. It's a metaphor for my deepest, most inner private areas, and how I get to somehow, some way, someday, and not today, because I'm still here. I still know exactly what I'm saying. I can still control what I'm saying right now, but someday I can open that and be fully not in control. Let divine be fully in control, and trust the universe enough to allow that to happen. Trust my life, my voice, my vehicle enough to the divine to let them bring through what needs to come through. And I got a big blessing around that today. I took a big step forward of being able to get there. I'm not quite there yet, but I took a big step thanks to their blessing, thanks to their locking of the door, thanks to all of those steps. I'm a big leap closer to being able to do that now. And maybe someday, soon, you'll hear the change in my voice, and you'll be able to tell that I am completely out of the way, and that whatever is coming through is just that. It's just coming through from the divine fully. And I've gotten so out of the way that I can't and won't and don't want to control what comes through. I've become surrendered enough to allow the divine to use me as an instrument fully. That's my hope. That's what I'm working towards. And you can too. Maybe you're all doing it. Maybe you're all there already. I'm not quite there, but I'm getting closer. And today was a big step. So I'm going to leave it there for today. I will have bonus content for this episode. We'll do a clearing on anything we can that is preventing us from being full, surrendered instruments of the divine light. And so you can listen and be part of that clearing at patreon.com/letsgetmeta. See, even saying that, even doing that stuff brings me more into my body because it's such a physical thing, right? It's such an earthly thing. Patreon, oh my gosh, that's such a human thing. Okay, I think I'm back now. But thank you for listening again. And I'll leave it there, and just know that you can be an instrument for the divine, and you are an instrument for the divine, and you get to work on and decide. You get to choose if you want to be more and more of that. So stay positive, stay safe, and stay meta.
The Let's Get Metaphysical podcast is an Up, and Awaken production and is produced and hosted by Renata Maniaci. Our intention is to raise the vibration of the planet by sharing, validating, and normalizing spiritual and metaphysical experiences. If you are ready to raise your vibration, you might enjoy our free Let's Get Meta Master Clearing. To receive the Master Clearing or to learn more about the podcast, visit letsgetmeta.com. We like to share metaphysical stories and answer spiritual questions on the podcast. If you have a metaphysical experience you would like to share or have a spiritual question you would like to have answered, please send an email to info@letsgetmeta.com. The Let's Get Meta podcast is inspired by angels and supported by angels. If you would like to be an angel donor to the podcast, visit patreon.com/letsgetmeta. Thank you for listening. Stay meta.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.